and your husband have a very rich heritage. And your husband's father worked with orphans over in China.
His grandfather.
Oh, it was his grandfather. And there's a book that we're actually going to feature because we love everyone to have one. And it's called Visions Beyond the Veil. And it's a story of how God visited the orphans who didn't have any education about the heavenly realm, or in fact, they didn't even know very much about God, I understand. But God took them into visions. Can you share a little bit, maybe a few insights from those experiences?
Yes, these kids were from the mines in China, and they were dying, and Roland's grandfather was, you know, doing the missionary thing and out preaching, and his grandmother started picking up these dying kids in the street, and she would bring them home, and they're illiterate. They weren't interested in God. They were little rascals, really. And she brought them in, and suddenly, one day, God just came. I mean, he just came. He just took over that place. And he took these kids in mass, not one by one, in mass, up to heaven. He showed them heaven. He showed them the throne room. He showed them Jesus, fruit trees. In fact, they picked fruit and they put it in their pockets, and they thought that it was literal fruit, and they brought it back to Grandpa Baker, and there wasn't any. They were so shocked. The angels took them to the brink of hell. They saw hell and judgment. They saw people in flames that had persecuted them and persecuted many, many Christians, and they saw them there, and they were terrified, and then angels would take them up to Jesus, and they danced with him, they sang with him, they drank from a brook of water. And Roland's grandfather would interview them one by one, and they would see Moses, they would see the prophets, they would say, oh, there was this huge man, and then there was this little tiny boy, and he threw a rock and he hit this big man and he fell down, and they said, what is that? And you know, they would see things, biblical stories as well, and they would come back and speak to his grandfather about them, and they saw heaven, they saw Jesus, they saw miracles. It was beautiful. And those kids, 90% of those children were martyred. And the ones that were left brought revival to Yunnan province in China. And none of them would ever deny Jesus, not one. They were martyred for their faith, and they wouldn't deny. And the ones that left saw a powerful outpouring.